Hi, welcome back. My name is Ray Naso, California artist, and we're going to show you a painting today that actually takes a little bit of a process, but it's actually very simple. So we're going to start out first with this 16 by 20 pre-primed canvas, and I just took a piece of painter's tape and actually ran it across the center. So we're going to work on the top part first, and to do that, we're going to go ahead and get some black gesso, which is right here, which is actually a water base, so you can wipe it off or wash your brush off with water. So it's going to dry fast. And then we're going to use this 1-inch brush. So just a basic brush, nothing special. We're going to dip it into the black gesso. You can see that. There you go. All right. And we're just going to tap it in here. Is going to make it, give it the illusion of having trees in the background. And you can bring it all the way down to the tape. So the tape is so you don't go too far down here, because we're going to do something else down there. And you really can't mess this up. Very, very simple. Just tap. And kind of squint your eyes and pretend there's a bunch of trees in the very background. We'll make this side a little bit taller. And then right through the middle, it's a little lower. This way you can see all the good stuff that's happening in the background. And as Bob Ross would say, this is a place for all the little critters. I always wanted to paint. I've been drawing and into art ever since I was a little guy, 4 years old. Started drawing pictures. But Bob Ross was really the one that actually taught me how to paint. I was really looking forward to actually going ahead and trying my hand with painting because I've been drawing so much and wanted to move on to the next step. So I gave it a shot and it was terrible. It was bad. So I have no idea where that painting is now. I don't know if I want to know where that painting is now. But anyway, he was the one that actually taught me. So I was so into trying to figure out how to do this, I went ahead and opened up a Bob Ross YouTube video. And I found something that I thought I'd be interested in. And I decided to go ahead and watch it a couple times, and then I decided to give it a try myself, and it actually started turning out pretty good. So compared to the first one I did and the one that he actually guided me through with his video, night and day. So I credit my painting skills to Bob Ross, at least initiating where I started from. So let's see. So all you have to do is get it to this point. Since this is gesso, we're going to let it dry. We're going to go ahead and put oil paints over top of this, and we want to make sure it's fully, completely dry. So we're going to give it about a half hour, and then we're going to come back to it, and I'm going to show you what to do after that. So we'll see you in a few minutes. All right, so I let this dry for about a half hour, and now it's totally dry, which is awesome. So if this was oil paint, it would take a little longer. So I'm going to go ahead and take this tape off. So we can go ahead and throw that away. And then I mixed me up a little bit of titanium white. So I'm going to take a 1-inch house brush. This one's a little bit thicker than the other one, but it would work too. So I'm just going to tap into the liquid white. Basically, it's titanium white with a little bit of linseed oil. At least that's my version. So now we're going to start from the top. And you don't want this too thick. You just want a thin little coat. And this is where the magic starts happening. Once you actually start putting on the liquid white over top of the black gesso, you're going to be able to see through it. And it takes all of these bushes and trees and puts it in the background. So now when you paint something over top, it looks like this is way in the back. So we're just going to come all the way down to the bottom. Make sure we got some nice even strokes here. Missed a spot right there. And just run this all the way down. So I had mentioned that I really learned how to paint from Bob Ross. And of course I picked up a few other tips and tricks here and there from other famous artists like Thomas Kincaid. He's another one of my favorites. But the one thing Bob Ross taught me was the trick with liquid white. So the nice part with liquid white is you can paint over top and it makes painting a lot smoother. So it's a great way to go. So I think we're good there. Get this nice and smooth. Okay. So now, I also want to take a little bit more liquid white and bring it down through here. Not all the way, so give or take that's almost half. Bring it back to about here. If you get this and you drop it down a little bit lower, not a big deal. Still going to be able to work with it. Sometimes if you put too much liquid white on, it does make it difficult to cover. So then you have to wipe it off. Got this little line right through here, a little residue from the black gesso. Not a big deal, we're going to paint over top of that too. Alright. So nice even strokes. There we go. So I like how that pushed those bushes and stuff back in the background. Now I'm going to get my palette ready and we're going to start with some phthalo blue. And I use Winton. This is actually Winsor & Newton, which has actually been a great brand for me for many years. So it's my paint of choice. But I do use some other ones and they do well too. So it just really depends on what you're using it for. This one has been great, so I'm going to keep using it. So the colors I have on my palette right now are going to be sap green, phthalo blue, titanium white, and cad yellow. So we're just going to use that 1-inch brush, and it still has some paint on it, so you can tell. Not going to wash it off. Just going to go ahead and tap into a little bit of the phthalo blue. Tap it on the palette because we don't want to use a whole lot. It goes a long ways. So we're just going to go up here and hit a little bit of that sky. And if you do it in a crisscross strokes, it actually breaks it up a little bit and makes it look a little bit more like sky. Like it's got some thin areas for where it's a little cloudy, I guess. There we go. I'm going to use a 2-inch house brush. Just a normal brush you buy at a regular hardware store. I'm just going to smooth this out a little bit. And again, back to more crisscross strokes. Now because it's got the liquid white on there, it makes it nice and smooth. So without the liquid white, painting this actually, it requires typically more paint. And it is harder to move the paint around. So this does make it A lot smoother, a lot easier. Alright, so now we have our sky. So back to the 1-inch house brush that we actually went ahead and just did the blue with. I'm just going to tap it into the titanium white. Then let's get some clouds. So you want to try not to touch the top, but you blend out the bottom and you have a pretty easy set of clouds. Makes it fun too. Always like doing Bob Ross style clouds. You kind of get that instant satisfaction. We'll go up and get some in the corner here. Now I also want to take a little bit of the titanium white and kind of get rid of this black line, this rough edge right through here. This way we can also make this look like fog. So now we're going to go ahead and start working on this area right through here. So the midsection, that's going to be a lake. So I'm going back to my 1-inch brush. I'm going to tap into the phthalo blue and don't put a lot on. Again, it's going to be similar to the sky. So it doesn't take a whole lot for it to be really rich. So we'll start from the sides and brush it in. Do the same thing over here. And bring it down to about here. So back to my 2-inch brush. Just gonna go ahead and wipe off the excess paint. Then carefully we're going to drag this across to smooth it out. So because of the liquid white, we can actually go ahead and bring this blue up to this bottom line right through here. I'm gonna make it a little bit darker on the sides, so we'll just come back through and add some more of the phthalo blue paint. Same thing with this side. Give it a nice, rich blue color. And back to the 2-inch brush and just smooth it out. Alright, so going back to the 1-inch brush, it's clean now, so I just washed it. We're going to go ahead and go into some phthalo blue, a tad bit of the sap green, and we're going to drag a little bit more of the white into here. And we want this to be a darker color. There we go. And just tap it so you don't have big clumps on your brush. So let's try this. Yeah, not too bad. Let's go a little darker. So we'll grab a little bit more of the phthalo blue. I'll try that. So we're just barely touching the canvas, and we're going to go ahead and bring it all the way to the center here. And again, you don't need a whole lot of paint for this. It comes off really nice and smooth. Okay. And just tap. Grab a little more. And now we'll come from the other side here, so let's go there. So these trees are just in front of the shadow trees in the very back. So we definitely don't want to cover up all the black. That's helping to give depth. And these layers will actually help with that as well. We'll bring it all the way down to here. Make this a little bit darker right through here. So grabbing a little phthalo blue, a little bit more titanium, sap green, and just tapping it in there with a 2-inch brush. I'll just bring this through here. So I got my trusty paper towel, 2-inch brush, and now let's go ahead and just pull this down a little bit. And now swipe across. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a little darker. Let's grab some more blue. I want this to really show quite a bit more contrast. So we'll just add a little more. Pretty simple. As Bob says, no mistakes. Would you like to catch Bob in a mistake? He doesn't make them. He's pretty incredible. Okay, and just drag it down, pull it down. Just like we did before. And now you can see it a little bit better. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and drag that across really lightly, barely touching the canvas, and going in one direction. So we don't want to keep bringing it down. We don't want to do diagonal. Now we can also grab a little bit of titanium white. Let's give this a little reflection here. Drag this across. And tap this in. Just lighten it up a tad bit. Just gonna bring it down just a little bit. More shimmer. So now I'm taking a sap green, mixing it with a cad yellow to make a lighter green color. Now I'm just going to grab, this is a filbert brush, so it's kind of curved on the top. You could use almost any brush you want. So I'm just going to go ahead and take a little bit of this green, so it's a sap green, a little bit of cad yellow mixed together, just dipping this in here. Now we're going to take a line and bring it from here. Let's see where we're going to bring it to. Bring it from here. Bring it all the way across. And because we didn't do much of the titanium white and linseed oil through here, this goes on pretty good, but this part's going to actually be a little bit slippery, but it'll work. So just keep putting this on. So what I want to do though is put a path through here. So let's see. Put a little curve in it. That'll work. And through here. And just roughen this path. Doesn't have to be anything crazy special. Okay. Might go to the bigger brush, but I'll try using this for now. Yeah, let's go to the bigger brush. Okay. So we'll go to the 1-inch brush, tap it in this green, and let's just scrub some of this green paint in here. So as you can tell, the canvas needs more paint on it if you don't have liquid white. So you can even hear it when you put it on. But due to that oily surface, sometimes it makes it a little rough to put the paint on. So I opted not to. If you did, it works too. Just sometimes a little bit more difficult, but still doable. Okay, we'll go right through here. We'll fill this in. So basically drawing on canvas to get an idea where you want to go ahead and put everything. Sometimes drawing directly on the canvas with, say, like charcoal or a pencil can make things a lot easier. Once you put the paint on, you're kind of done. Or you just wait till it dries. Or sometimes there's some techniques you can work with that as well. So I've seen where people take paper towels or shop cloths and actually put them on the paint so it actually absorbs the oil. Okay, so I'm gonna take a little yellow, cad yellow, just tap it. Let's go right in through here and highlight this a little bit better and just tap. So that way we got some grasses coming up here. Go right in through here. Make it look like we have some sun shining on the grass. Bring it all the way out to the path. Love the cad yellow. We're still going to make the path come through here, but we're going to change the color. Just tap this in here. Let's put some more up here. So now if you use a little bit of titanium white, just gotta be careful not to put too much on. And now you have significantly brighter highlights for your grass. And again, you want to leave the darks. Don't want to cover those up. Let's go ahead here. Get a little bit more. Let's push this in through here. You having fun yet? If you want to add more dark, just go back into the green, sap green, and then you can add more darker shadows. So just using the flat part of the brush here. So it kind of gives a grassy effect. And right in through here. So let's go in to the green and the blue. So we have a nice dark color. Just tap the brush. Now, let's go ahead and put a big bush right in through here. Tap it in. And this would be the shadow for the bush. I think that looks good. Let's get a couple other ones here. Just tap the canvas with your brush and pretend you're making a bush, because you are. We'll come back to that. Let's do some dark area through here. So more blue, more sap green. I got a shaky easel, so I'm just gonna hold that. Come right in through here. More shadow. Do a couple up here too. So I got this little guy called a mop brush. A lot of times I use it for watercolor. It's pretty cool, but it's really, really soft. So you could use it as a blender as well. Some people call it a blender. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take this white part up here, some of the water, and just lightly touch. So it blends it out a little bit better. This is one of the coolest brushes. Oh, you don't have such hard lines with the water. So this is the blender brush. Cool. And a lot of times I have a paper towel so I can wipe off the excess paint. So now we're going to take the palette knife and take a little bit of that liquid white, and then right up to about here. This is where we're going to start. And just scrub it back and forth. And then we can start bringing it over here. This is the water line. So it gives you a little separation, kind of cleans things up a little bit. Now to make it shimmer a little bit more, we can actually bring this down a little. Now we're going to use a 3/4 inch brush. Grab a little Van Dyke brown, a little bit of linseed oil, and maybe a little bit of, let's go a little bit of black. All right, so we have Van Dyke brown, a little bit of lamp black, and a little bit of yellow ochre. And with a 3-inch or 3/4 inch brush, the flat brush, right in through here. We'll have it in with all the bushes here. So we'll grab a little more. Let's do another one right next to it, right through here. Put some branches on there. Tree. Let's do another nice one. Fix that little gap right there and do another one right through here. Through this way. Work on trees for hours, so we're not going to do that today. But you can put all sorts of cool detail in here. Let's do another one. So now we're going to go back to the 1-inch brush and let's add a little bit of the blue and maybe a little white. Let's get some white in there. Lighten it up a little bit. So we're just going to tap really lightly. Let's start right there. Just put in some leaves. So just barely touch the canvas. Let's grab a fan brush. So this is a number 2 fan brush. So you can see that. We're going to grab some cad yellow mixed with a little bit of the green or blue to make it green. All right, so let's go ahead and add some highlights over on this side because this is where the sun's actually shining in through. And it's okay if it mixes with the green leaves already on there. Gives a little variation. And you can flip your fan brush back and forth to get the look you desire. And if it's not sticking, you could add a little bit more oil or mineral spirits, thinner, that'll work too. So the fan brush can give you some more specific style leaves as opposed to the 1-inch brush, but that works well too. Just depends on what kind of leaves you want to make. Gotta be fair. A little bit everywhere. Get some on the very top. Some little guys out here. Just do a couple. Looks like some stray leaves. So I'm just using a tip of the fan brush for this. Some more here. Getting there. So now you can add a little bit more oil and grab a little titanium white. Lighten up the shade a little bit. Some more highlights. There. And let's go ahead and go through a little titanium white with a little yellow ochre. Now, let's put a little highlight on the tree. That way he stands out a little better. Now let's go back to the 1-inch brush. Pick up some highlights. Just finish off with these little bushes in here. One more highlight. So let's go back to the 3/4 inch brush. Little brown, little yellow ochre. Let's put a big old tree right in through here. Right there. Let's take this guy right off the canvas. Okay, and we gotta make him big guy. Have a little more brown, little black. Let's try this yellow ochre. Get a little oil, some white, or the lighter color we already had on the palette. Grab some white, lighten this up a little bit. Show off some of those branches. A little more white, yellow ochre. Got a liner brush, so now you're looking at some really long bristles here, and I dipped it into the paint thinner. So what we're going to do is mix that with the brown. We're going to do some branches, some thinner branches. We'll add some detail. So you want to get this thin so it actually comes off easy. Let's try it and see if we get anywhere. Yeah, not too bad. A little more. And if you roll it, you can make it into a point while you're blending the paint, which is nice. You can also mix it with a little black. And if you want to make some really nice branches, you can take all the time you want. You could actually make some really cool stuff. At least this way you get the idea of how to do it. Gotta make the little noises when you paint. Let's see, where else? Let's go here. There's a glob of paint on that. Go through here. Get a little bit more thinner. Put this down some more. for now. Now we could go back to the 1-inch brush. Let's go ahead and add some leaves. So we could grab a little oil, thin this out a little bit. And just tap away. Leave some spaces and make sure you don't cover up all your clouds. And leave some sky so it makes it look more real. Great time if you see some spots you don't like, you can fill them in with the green. Or just add a little bit more detail. Here. Let's go lighter green. So we're going to add a little bit of the cad yellow. So you could go darker by adding phthalo blue, go lighter by adding cad yellow. Well, you got shade, highlights. Go ahead and lighten this up a little bit. Now, you grab the fan brush again. Let's grab some white. Run through a little bit of the light green. Now, let's try this. Got a plant, a bush. It's got some little limbs coming out. Just take the fan brush and brush up, and you'll get some grasses here. Easy way to make grass. Let's add a couple highlights to this bush. Just lighter colors. Now let's go back into the yellow ochre, little white, and let's finish off this path here. So let's just drag it right in through here. This way. Swoop. Right through here. So with grass, of course, it's not usually a straight edge, especially if it's not somebody's yard. So you can actually wiggle your paintbrush in through here to give it a little character. Now it should be darker up here in the front, and lighter over here in the back. Grab a little titanium white. Let's brush on a little bit of highlights through here. So it looks more like a little trail or dirt. Now you can grab a little darker brown or add a little black to it. Let's go in right here and darken this up a little. Shadow on a trail, and then we have to do it here too. There. Darken this up a little as well. Just adding a really dark green. Make that shadow look better. This. So as they say, I'm laying it on a little thick. Not funny? No. I'm going to take a fan brush, dip it into cad red, get a decent amount on there, and then I want the bristles to be apart, not all squished together, so there's little spaces. Add some nice flowers. Let's grab some white, lighten this up a little bit. Do the same thing. Add some more right there. Just adding some color. Give it a little bit more interest. Then let's grab a lot more white. Let's go through here. This might be a little rough. Yeah, let's add some thinner. Thin this down. Okay. Thinner paint will stick to a thicker paint, so let's see. Yep, here we go. That's better. Kind of tapping that on there. Get some up here too. Grab some red. Slide through here. When I was younger, I used to do a lot of drawing, and a lot of the drawing was always black and white because I worked with a lot of charcoal and stuff. So once I started doing oil painting and started being able to add color, it was quite enjoyable. If you guys enjoy drawing, leave me a comment and let me know. And also, what do you like to draw? How long have you been drawing if you do draw? It's kind of nice to know how to draw if you're doing painting. I mean, a lot of people actually don't draw well, yet they still do oil painting, which is really cool. I like the combination. I like to be able to draw and oil paint. To me, you could get a lot of detail when you do that. Especially for like architecture and stuff. Bob Ross had a way though of making his cabins. Those were pretty awesome. Now let's add some flowers to this. So I mixed up some blue and white. So titanium white and phthalo blue. We want to try to make this kind of thin, so I'm adding oil to it. Let's see if that's thin enough. So you want it to stick. Well, that was fun, but more importantly, was it fun for you? Next time we might have to grab some bigger tools. So, until then, thank you very much for joining me, and we'll see you again soon.